opposing the takeover by Exelon of Pepco, the local utility company, and the Public Services Commission has rejected the offer, the purchase offer. They were very clear in, among many other, they have a set of 7 criteria. I have a reverb here. Okay, I apologize for that. They have a list of 7 criteria, and they talked about the inherent conflict of interest between, for Exelon, if they were to purchase Pepco, and they also talked about the incredible voice of the public. 23 out of 40 commissions in the district passed resolutions opposing, and there were over 2,000 public comments. So I want to express my thanks to the public. There's a rally on September 17th at noon at Freedom Plaza, in part to say thank you to the Public Services Commission. Right now they have 30 days to appeal, and they have submitted a proposal to the mayor's office to try to settle with them. And so the rally is to say thank you to the Public Services Commission and encourage the mayor not to settle. That's all.
I have no announcement.
Okay. Good for you.
I give my time to Commissioner Gresham.
You give them to me, thank you. First I want to say thank you to Alex Ray and his mom for doing the mini part. You preempted me on that one. It's great that we have a clean park for a while, well manicured. And so thank you to your son and his crew.
And thank you to Commissioner Gresham, who scrubbed in her blue jeans, scrubbed with Tilex. I don't have a picture of that.
All right. It's for the connection. And AU's landscape department, they have agreed to put in 2 new benches, replacing very old dilapidated benches, a recycling waste can, and a doggy pot. So hopefully that will be coming soon, maybe at the end of the year. Say thank you to AU on all that too. Park Van Ness is still under construction, as you all know. The sidewalk is still closed. They are still trying to get ready for the opening at the end of the year. They are fairly on schedule because they haven't had a lot of rain. They are continuing with the facade installation, the masonry, cast stone, and windows. They are starting demolition on a site work in the public space. So we will have the sidewalks there hopefully. And they are doing the utilities in the public space right now. All the utilities run in the sidewalk, not in the street. So that's why we haven't had a sidewalk in a long time. The third announcement is DDOT has agreed to put in a hawk signal at Connecticut and Ellicott. There has been a huge outcry for that to be done. It was confirmed in the last week that we will be getting that. It's a little confusion on when we'll be getting that because I think our whole commission thought that that was already in the design phase from the couple of community meetings that George Brendan came and talked to us about with the unsignalized crosswalks from DDOT. We are also asking them for some type of signal or hawk at Chesapeake Street. We have not heard much about that, but hopefully we will get something on that in the future. The fourth announcement is the merge renovation is moving along. I think Malachi is not here tonight. He knows a little bit more than I do, but he asked me to update you on the RFP is out for a contractor. We are hopefully getting submissions by October 5th. They are in the design phase right now, design development phase. The architect is, and they have, DGS has released a RFS for swing space. It is a document that can be sent to like UDC or Fannie Mae or the church, or potential space for the swing space for merch. And the last announcement I have is there's recently been a young man that has been playing music in Forest Hills Park over the last month and a half, that has annoyed neighbors on Chesapeake and has been annoying to parents and children at both the Forest Hills Playground and at Merge. There's been an outcry for assistance from the Metropolitan Police Department, which Commander Gresham is here tonight to speak to us about what we should do in the case of someone being fairly suspicious or obnoxious. The main thing is to call 911, but he will go over that tonight. The community, especially my single-member district, is very aware of the issue, and there's been a lot of outcry, and Mary Chey has been informed of it, etc.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is now, the next item on the agenda is now the open forum. So this is an opportunity for members of the community to come forward and speak on issues.
Well, clarification, Andrew.
Okay.
As I was coming in, I think you announced that the sidewalk issue on Fessenden had been postponed. And there are 3 of us here. If that's the case, we'd like to know.
I got an email from Courtney saying that nobody would be here tonight. You're here?
Mike?
Okay. I apologize then. Let's put it back on the agenda. Do you have the petition?
I'm sorry?
Do you have the petition?
Mike, you have? I can run home.
But it's all signed.
The version I have was nothing happened.
Yeah, can we talk about this offline? I apologize.
Yeah, I think we need the petition.
We need the petition, and I didn't hear from anyone, so I had not prepared the resolution. I don't have it printed out. It wasn't on the agenda. I apologize.
Let us get together.
Okay. Okay. What one?
You could hear from them, but then you can table the resolution until next.
Yeah, they're going to try to figure out where the resolution, where the petition is, and then they'll come back. Okay? Mr. Fishman? Okay, okay. Sorry for this. It's a little sketchy tonight. Why don't you go after the others? Okay. Who wants to be heard this evening?
Yes.
Can you come speak on the
Yes,
mic,
I will.
please?
Identify yourself, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioner. My name is Philip Thomas, former Commissioner in 3D. I'm here to promote and say thank you for 2 things. First thing, we have Commander Gresham here, so thank you for donating funds for the Citizens Advisory Council for the 2nd District of Police Department. I want to invite everybody to that, which is September 30th at Maggiano's. It's a $50 ticket. I'll definitely send it to you guys so you can pass it on to the constituents as well. And then another event I want to promote, which is free, is a Ward 3 Community Walk with the Mayor on September 26th at Chevy Chase Recreation Center. And I left flyers in the back as well. So September 26th is the community walk with the mayor at Chevy Chase Rec Center. And then September 30th is the 2nd District Citizens Advisory Council Police Banquet to honor the police of the 2nd District. And that's a $50, it costs $50 in San Maggiano's, and we honor all the police in the 2nd District and commanders and captains and stuff like that as well.
Are you with the mayor's office?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm the Ward 3 Fit coach, Ward 3 Fit DC coach, and also I sit on the executive board for the Citizens Advisory Council.
Oh,
So those
sorry.
2. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, take that. Mike?
All right.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mike Matthews. I'm the Ward 3 liaison. I am with the mayor's office. And I just have to echo what Phil said. Definitely try to show up on the 26th at Chevy Chase. It's going to be a great walk. It's not a lot of fun trying to catch up with Phil, but I promise I'll be a little slower. I'll be that guy you could probably catch up with. So definitely echo what he says. But a couple things here. I am the one that put the 6-month reports on everybody's chair here. I know we have a lot to cover tonight with commission business, but I just quickly wanted to give you a rundown on what we have going on in the mayor's office. It's been a while since I've been able to get up here and say hi. So that is the 6-month report. Obviously, we've done quite a few things as the administration kind of in the first 6 months. We're actually now at 9, which is hard to believe. A lot to look over there. But the real reason I'm here this evening is a piece of paper in there, and it is the homeless pledge. And what this is a district-wide ask of the mayor for as many people as possible to sign this pledge. This is not a, tick by tick, line by line policy, thing on your part where you're committing to anything. It's really just kind of a feel-good statement saying we are all committed to ending homelessness. And as you see there, by 2015, so that's by the end of this year, we are on track, believe it or not, to cut veteran homelessness here in the district. So we are still looking good for that here in the middle of September, which is great. And you'll see that 2020, we really want to end recurring homelessness. And that's the problem with DC General right now that a lot of folks are saying is that, folks are coming in 3-4 times and we don't really have a real solution for it. And that is the commitment, that's the next step we want to take. So I would appreciate the commissioners and anybody else here to please, sign the pledge. You'll see me up at Tenleytown, at Van Ness, at Woodley Park, getting everybody, all the liaisons, quite a few staff members of the mayor are going to be out, and this is in all 8 wards as a commitment here. So, but just briefly, any questions on anything here? Easy crowd. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, there's 8.
I want to commend the mayor's office and MPD, the Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Public Works, and Friendship Place, who all work together in a really beautiful way to provide assistance to the homeless gentleman who was at Van Ness. It was an incredibly complicated situation, as most of the homeless cases are, and the attitude and spirit that everybody brought to that process was remarkable. Homelessness is not going to end tomorrow. I'm really thrilled that Mayor Bowser is doing what she is to try to shine a light on it, but I just want to say that when you pass homeless people, you can know that there is an army of people behind the scenes who are working to help.
Thank you. Okay. Please,
Sure.
and just identify yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm Andy Huff, and I want to talk just 3 issues about public safety, particularly of pedestrians. One is to see if there's an update about Broad Branch in some sort of, and you don't have to answer this right now, but pedestrians and bikers on Broad Branch. It is not possible to go down there without significant risk. The second one is, why should the construction of sidewalks on public property and the issue of public safety be up for vote? These are sidewalks. And thirdly, I just want to report on that. I live in a place where the commission approved sidewalk and people are walking down it every day. Before that, they were just walking in the street. Children, adults, everybody. I don't understand why this whole thing, and this is an issue that I'm not going to say much more about, but I don't think that should be up for public vote on public land.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Andy, hi. Very nice. The Broad Branch thing is still in study, and Paul Hoffman is the contact. I know you've worked with Paul Hoffman on your street issues, and they are supposed to be sending out a decision sometime this fall. So hopefully we'll hear something soon. on the sidewalks, could not agree with you more.
I'll say that.
We have concluded we're not prepared for tonight, so postpone it.
Okay, thank you very much for letting us know. There was another hand back there. Marlene?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Marlene Berlin, and wear many hats. But I just wanted to respond to Andy Huff's issue about voting on sidewalks. It is not necessary to vote on sidewalks, but, and it's a big but, it is much easier to get a sidewalk if DDOT knows that all the citizens are in favor of. So that's the caveat.
Marlene, I think what you're trying to say there is that we shouldn't even have that. We should have it
No,
on city property, and this is an ongoing battle that we as a commission deal with.
There should be a rebuttable presumption.
Yes.
Right.
It should be reversed.
Right.
It should go in and get enough signatures that they can go for it. Doesn't go in. And I know you've tried to do that. And is there any update on that at all?
Well, the regulations do not require it. But to get regulations, right, exactly. I mean, it's still political. It's still a political issue.
So what would it take? Going to the council? Going to the mayor?
Well,
Talk to
the
mayor
council,
about
we
it?
have the Priority Sidewalk Act, and then there were not regulations. There are now regulations. I don't know. You know, I don't know what it will take.
It's definitely on our list to
Yeah.
discuss with VDOT. We have a very long list.
Yes. Okay. Public, Barbara.
You know, okay, I'm Barbara Bates, and I think September 26th is a busy day. Maybe you folks know this, I just found it out. It's Take Back Your Old Medicines Day, 10 to 2, and it's at the University of DC. So let me leave that with you. And the second thing is, and I don't know if I take this up with the police, I use our bus system. Bus stop over by Van Ness UDC going south into town. There has been a yellow police tape there for weeks, crime tape, and it's right by the bicycles, it's right by the bus, and I'm not sure why it's there. And I don't think a citizen can take it down.
So the reason, I believe, the reason they put that up is because people were jaywalking. And so it was meant to deter jaywalkers, so that you would have to go to the crosswalk to cross.
Well, I still see them jaywalk.
We're going to talk about that in just a few minutes.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Barbara.
Well, that is something that's very interesting. There's been a lot of construction going on, and the contractors for DDOT or whoever are not coming back and cleaning up their mess at the end. One of those things happens to be this yellow tape. I have noticed that in quite a few incidents. So again, that's something on the list.
It's police tape?
Well, it's
Yellow crime
police,
tape.
some's police tape and some of it's construction tape. It says like do not walk, or, I mean, there's various ones. So maybe that's a question for Commander Gresham on the tape, but I know some of it is DDOT tape.
Thank you. If there are no other open comments, then please.
Hi, I'm Joel Fishman, live at 2800 Davenport Street Northwest. I just want to report that on the In the early morning hours of August 15, our home was burglarized. The police responded well, and the next day, one of our neighbors, we informed our neighbors, and one of our neighbors thought he saw the burglar and called in a description. But this is an unusual event, and I wanted to report it.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the police report. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. I want to first start by saying thank you for recognizing the hard work between the police department and the other D.C. government agencies in addressing the homeless situation. We really appreciate that. For those who don't know me, I'm Commander Gresham, assigned to the 2nd District, and I actually have your new PSA Lieutenant, Lieutenant Gary Duran. Lieutenant Neal previously served as the PSA Lieutenant. He had PSAs 203 and 204. He's still assigned to the 2nd District, but he's only responsible for, at this time, PSA 204. So I'll let Lieutenant Duran brief you on his tenure with the police department.
Okay. Thank you, Commander.
Sure.
Thanks for having us here today. My name is Gary Durand. New to 2D in my 26 years with the Metropolitan Police Department. Just recently came over here from the 5th District. Within the past week, I want to apologize because I've been out on injury and I'm really just trying to get back to full duty. So I kind of came back in, I put out something on the listserv, introduced myself, who I am. I have heard some of the things that have come back to me. I've tried to answer. The gentleman at Birch, Birch, that we're on the same page.
Yeah. Well, Forest Hills and.
Right. I had been in touch. I had a number in the email. I tried to reach that contact, and I don't know whether it got transposed. I then contacted Mary Che's office, who was supposed to forward my email on to whoever complained. Then it might have been you, so I'm glad I'm here tonight to talk to you.
I'll give it to you.
So, one of the things we did, especially for, you never want to jump to any kind of conclusions. You know, somebody could just be in the park playing music, even though it's attached to the elementary school. I'm assuming the park belongs to the elementary school. I'm still trying to get to the area.
Forest Hills is a completely separate park. One is on the east side of Connecticut, Murray's
Okay.
on the west side.
Okay, so from what
So he's going to both places. But the
Now-
school has security, so they
They're
have
chasing
a way
them to the other side.
to deal with it.
And again, I'm following in the email chain, what was forwarded to me, was disseminated to the officers to give the area special attention. Now, if he's on, is one of these sides, I'm taking it as a public park, correct?
Correct.
Okay, he's
It's
got
a
a right,
DPR
he's got a
park.
right to be in the public park. And there are certain noise ordinances. I couldn't even sit here and begin to tell you, like, I knew what they were, but I know where to find out.
It's 80 decibel, I can tell you that.
But I'll be straight with you. I can ask John Hanson, one of my officers right here, or anybody if they got a decibel meter.
Well, that's
And it's
no
probably
problem. Yeah.
gonna be no. But again, it's something that, it's affecting the community. We have no problem in giving the gentleman special attention and taking whatever is appropriate steps. In a lot of cases, the appropriate steps is usually just turn the music down or go about your business. Most of the time, something like a noise ordinance complaint isn't something you can call and tell me about, and then I can do something in person. That's something that I have to observe, or an officer has to observe. I apologize, I'm just jumping in. I just came back to limited duty Tuesday.
I'll be happy to meet with you at the
Absolutely.
park and give you background. There's.
And when we meet, you don't have to be like, that's him. You can just,
No,
you
no,
know.
no, no.
we-
That's, but we
There,
also,
there.
we also have the Friends co-presidents that are very aware of everything.
Has anybody talked to the guy? I feel like you guys
Yes,
approached him.
I personally have talked to him.
What was the
First-
reaction?
Well, I was called not from bothering the children and parents. I was called
God bless you.
for the loud music. I had a neighbor that I know very well, lives across from the park, and he was coming for about a week, setting up his speakers on an electrical box for the new renovated playground. And then he would work out on the adult fitness equipment that is very close to Chesapeake Street. My neighbor called me and asked me to intercede because she went out and talked to him and asked him to please cut the music down. She had a paper due, and he didn't, so this is when she called me. I went and actually talked to him, met him. He would not give me his last name, his first name. He was okay at first. He then, when I asked him to cut down the music, he became a little defensive and said it's jazz, nice music, no vocal, everybody should love it. People who come up and told him they love it. And I said, well, some people don't, could you? And I offered for him to go to the amphitheater, which is made for people playing music, and it's further away from the houses. And he said that was a good suggestion, and he was pleasant, and then he got on his bike and left.
When was the last time he's been there?
Well, I saw him on August the 3rd.
He was there last week.
He's been on and off for 2 weeks, roughly the end of August.
I see, I'll get.
Right.
Okay, there's somebody in the back that wants to add something to this discussion.
Yeah, so I'm from Friendship Place, in Wisconsin. It's a homeless drop-in center.
What's your name?
So, Josh, gentlemen. So I came in a little late. I don't know if I missed the original story about this, but is it where we believe it's a homeless individual that's...
He doesn't seem homeless to me.
He's not?
He has a very nice bike and very, very nice speakers. He told me he lived in, because I asked him where he lived, he said thinking he lived in one of the apartment buildings. He said he lived in Cleveland Park, but, I mean,
Okay.
And I asked him why he kind of wasn't going to Macomb Park, which was closer.
Right.
Park. And he said he liked the park, so that's why he came there.
Did you offer him some beer funds?
I don't do quite a lot, but as far as
But I mean, if there's any chance that we can outreach to him, even if you do believe he is housed, I mean, it seems like that's behavior that we would associate with.
It's kind of odd.
Right, so I mean, if there's any way that, I mean, if that does come up again, that we can be contacted and we can go out there and reach out to him and hopefully.
Give us all your information.
Yeah, I'll come up afterwards.
And also, if we could post it on the bulletin board at the Barcel's Park.
Yes, ma'am.
Contact,
Yeah.
that'd be good.
Yeah, and if, I mean, if there's any other concerns about any homeless individuals or situations, I mean, I'm here right now, so.
I don't suspect he's homeless, but
Right.
I don't.
Okay, that's fine. And even if he isn't, I mean, we can still work. I mean, our forte is homeless individuals, but I mean, if there's any, you know, kind of mental health stuff going on, we can definitely work with him on any type of that stuff.
I mean, Virginia, can you add anything?
I'm Virginia Marentet. I'm the co-president of the Friends of the Forest Hills Playground Association, also a merch parent. I've heard from many, many parents. I understand that he has every right to be in a public park, but I think we can all agree it's quite suspicious for a man to go to a school to hang out, play his music, try to interact with children when he himself does not have children, doesn't have any real reason to be there. To answer your previous question, I have not personally seen him, but our community is very aware of him, and so we get emails directed to us when he appears. And the last one was either Sunday or Monday of Labor Day.
Yes,
weekend.
because
that's
when I got included in the email chain, what I saw.
And to answer your other question, when people have interacted with him, he has been quite belligerent.
Okay.
He is not, you know, but he does appear well-dressed, not homeless, has a nice bike, a nice backpack, nice speakers. Yeah.
I did want to add that if he's on, now this park is owned by...
It's two different locations.
Okay.
One is a DC park.
Okay.
Forest Hills Playground at 32nd Chesapeake. The other is Murch Elementary School.
Okay. Now, the school can actually bar him from being on the property. And if they, because they would have to take the initiative, the police department cannot bar someone. We can only enforce it. So if the school bars him from the property and he's seen on the property, then we can actually arrest him and the charge would be unlawful entry. So there is a an enforcement component that we can utilize, but we would have to have the school to take the initiative.
I'll communicate that to the principal of the
Okay,
school.
great.
Thank you.
And as far as the park, is still the suggestion from Lieutenant Beal, wrote an email to us. The other commissioner, Commissioner Nugent, and he said that nobody should really go up to him.
But that's kind of where I was gonna jump into that. Did you have anything else you
I
wanted
mean,
to
I
add?
just want to say, I mean, I think we work with homeless individuals every day that don't look homeless, that have a lot of nice things that, you know, and they are dealing with a lot of mental health stuff going on. So I think it's dangerous to assume because they're next to a school that they have some type of intention, whatever the delusion they might be having. I mean, I think that's why it's important for us to come out there and
Sure, but
speak to that individual.
let me just kind of pull this back in for a second. Everybody knows anybody's got a right to be wherever they want in public space. He's got a right to use the park if it's a DC park, just like anybody in this room. I don't think anybody's arguing that. If he is creating a disruption, there are rules and everything to cover the disruption. I'll have the officers definitely give it special attention. And I would probably say at this point, if people have talked to him and the response hasn't been that great, let the officers talk to him. We do have some, you know, you wouldn't believe it if you watch television, but we actually do have some really well-trained officers that if somebody is in crisis, they can pick up on that, they can have a discussion with them, and they can mitigate it. The last thing we want is a citizen to get assaulted because something got escalated, or we want our officers responding and escalating what should just be have a nice day into somebody going to jail or to make a situation worse. You brought it to my attention. I'm really not cutting anybody off. I hope that's not what anybody thinks. I'm going to talk to you. I'll talk to whoever wants. Get the information. John Hanson, John, stand up. John's one of my officers, works the evening shift. We talked about this earlier during the meeting. He has not seen him. Franchek, a lot of you guys know on day work. I'm fortunate enough to inherit a good crew of officers that seem pretty on the ball. Nobody's really had a run-in with him. But that's not saying he's not there or he won't come back. But again, if they're, I'll get to you in 1 second, sir. If they are in crisis, it's just better if we talk to them and let us go ahead and figure it out. And I know some people are like, well, it's never better when the police talk to them. But it is. Trust me, it is.
The bottom line.
I'm sorry, I have to leave. I just want to say I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you. You're quite welcome.
You could leave a card with Officer Hanson.
So the bottom line is
Lieutenant.
call 911.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm just a neighbor. If we see something or hear something that we want to report to you or Sergeant Hanson or anybody else with regard to this gentleman, whom do you want us to contact?
Okay, first, 911 is always like the, hey, it's happening right now, 911. I will give everybody my name and email address. All right, my first name is Gary, Gary. The police department changed my middle name to Dot. Durand, Durand, @dc.gov. Email is the best way to get back. When it comes to sending me an email, and I will respond, if you hit me at 4 o'clock in the morning, I might not get back to you right away. But if my days off right now are Sunday and Monday, the only thing I'll ask, well, Commander standing here, please give me a chance before you go right to him. He's got a whole district to run. I have a PSA. And a lot of times, I think people get caught in, I'm going to email Grooms or I'm going to email Lanier, and then he's going to, all it's going to do, it just takes longer for it to come back down to me, where if you send it to me, we probably could have got it done. Now, if I'm not doing my job or what you guys expect of me or need from me, absolutely.
Could you give us a phone number?
Yes. My phone number is 202-489-4181. But that phone will not be good until tomorrow. I left my old one on my dashboard and somebody cooked it. I got it. Which is going to come to one of the public safety things I'm going to talk about here tonight. So I was already, it got me a 5D for that one. Ma'am, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment regarding homelessness. My name is Dee Foster, and I live at the Van Ness Apartments. But there's a young woman, I say young, she may be in her 40s or 50s, who's homeless, who has been hanging out in the Giant food store in the garage area, and she's starting to accumulate a lot of baggage.
Right.
And she's there every day, and some days she hangs out at the back of our building. So I just want to make you aware of, we're having a situation that's going to start again with somebody taking up semi-permanent residence in our area. And she doesn't look desperate, but she definitely needs some help.
Dude,
Yes.
you guys.
Can I speak with you after?
Sure,
Okay.
sure,
I will, we will definitely do that. Yep.
And just for you and for other people, during my career, I've worked in downtown 1D as a lieutenant, dealt a lot with homeless people. That shelter that was on 14th Street School, there shouldn't have been anybody living in that place. But I think things are getting better. I don't want anybody to get the idea that police department targets homeless people. We really do work with a lot of organizations to try to get these people what they need, because most of the time sometimes if you think giving them a bunch of money on the streets helping them out, it's really not. It's just facilitating that lifestyle. It's helping them stay out longer. If we can come off of merch?
Yes.
Okay. Again, when you come in, one of these things that I have always tried to avoid in my time I've been a police official for 20 years. I've been with the department, like I said, 26. You had one robbery, that nobody wants to get. So you guys' crime numbers look really good, with the exception of you had some robberies this past month. And when I say look good, like some of your Part 1 offenses, property crimes are down 70%. Your overall crime is 34% reduction, which is pretty good considering a lot of places where I came from, they would have loved to see a 34% reduction. With the robberies,
That's down relative to what?
time last year.
Okay.
So you do 60, 90s. We pick whatever number works best for us, and then that's what But no, in all honesty, I can sit here and say the matter is, do you feel safer in your home? Things that we can do. The robberies, looks like 2 of them happens like almost simultaneously up in Nebraska Avenue. Nebraska Avenue, you can very easily hit Military Road and you can be into the east side of the city or Maryland or gone really pretty quick. So a lot of times when we do have some of those robberies that don't occur, usually suspects related. I don't know enough about each individual case to say that they are, but that's just been my experiences over the years. Your theft from autos seemed again to be centralized on Connecticut Avenue, which I would have to say are people going to use the various restaurants and drinking establishments around here. My story, left my windows down in my driveway in suburbia and my phone on the dashboard and somebody stole it. So if it can happen anywhere, if you leave in my case, if you're stupid enough to leave your windows down and your cell phone sitting on the dashboard, somebody's going to come along and take it.
Well, I think the concern was about the 2 incidents in particular here in Nebraska.
The 2 robberies.
Right, yes.
Well, and burglaries.
Yes, well, there was one burglary, and I believe that was the gentleman that's
Yes.
And again, I'm just jumping in, so I couldn't tell you the specific of each of them. I believe one of the robberies was somebody grabbed something out of a walker or something like that.
So that is very recent. I'm glad you mentioned that. That was just on the 12th. That happened in the Giant garage.
Yes.
So if you do have information on that or think that person's related to any other.
No, this particular robbery was not related to the others. The robberies that happened on the street involved the younger suspects, and like the lieutenant said, we believe they were coming from the Military Road thoroughfare. We've had cases where most of the perpetrators of these robberies are actually coming from the 4th Police District. There were a number of individuals who are under an investigation. There are like 3 of them that are currently incarcerated.
I wasn't going to name names, so I don't want to point out 4 names.
There are 3 that are currently incarcerated and some others that are still out, and they're actively being investigated. So hopefully we'll be able to tie them into the other robberies.
What happens in a lot of these situations, and I saw it a lot coming from the 5th District, they'll go out and they'll steal a car. And a group of younger individuals will come to a neighborhood and doesn't really look as bad as I've seen in a lot of other places, but there's this problem everywhere. And then relatively quickly, and then they'll dump the car and gone. How we track a lot of them is they steal cell phones. You can go, depending on city, other places, you can go to a kiosk and put a cell phone in and they'll pay you money for the cell phone. Doesn't ask you how you got it, doesn't ask you where you got it. Just says, oh, this cell phone's worth this much money, and then they'll give it to you. So, the Chief Lanier was really trying hard to get legislation to stop that. When the one with the walker, and correct me if I'm wrong, they just grabbed his property off the walker, correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Yes.
But it is concerning because this was not out of a vehicle, this was actually
Right.
interaction
But
directly.
I also understand.
Well, I have some information on that. What this particular suspect did, he was an older male, older than the suspects involved in the street robberies. He dropped a set of keys and he told the complainant or the victim, I believe my keys are under your walker. And that's when he reached down and at the same time removed her property. With the garage, the police cannot patrol on private property. So that's those are actually issues that need to be raised with Giant, whether or not they have adequate security. It's a major concern because anyone can walk in off the street onto private property, particularly the Giant garage, and they're not challenged. So that's a very serious issue that needs to be addressed.
But in this case, they did have video surveillance. I've seen the photograph of the
Yes,
suspect.
yes.
So have you made progress in identifying?
They have, but it's a pending case, and I cannot give you specifics on it. But yes, we do have video, and it is actively being investigated. Now, one thing I wanted to share, and I don't want to take up too much of Lieutenant Duran's interaction, but with the street robberies, most of the victims were targeted in the very early hours of the morning. They were alone, except for one of the cases in one of the other PSAs, and they were approached when there was very limited vehicular and pedestrian traffic. So one of the things you'd want to do, since the evenings are now shorter, try to be with someone. Don't be out specifically late at night by yourself because you're an easy target. And what these individuals were actually doing, they were riding through several police districts, the 1st District, 5th District, the 3rd District, and of course the 2nd District, looking for potential victims. And in most cases, the victims were out alone by themselves.
Okay, I don't want to cut you short.
No, and please, I know you
Okay,
have something.
but I know that there was one particular issue that Commissioner Gresham would like.
There are two now. I just got an email from the neighbor about the young man who's too bad, the homeless.
Is he over there now?
He's there now.
Ah.
He says he's been there Sunday morning. He took a brief break, came back that evening. Last night he was there from 8 to 9, and he's there now.
Can you get on radio, ask somebody to go through if he's there now? Which one is he at? Is he at the?
He's at the Forest Hills Park on Chesapeake.
Thanks, John.
So look out for him.
He's got dark hair, glasses.
What race is he?
Caucasian. It's on the north side. He's on the Chesapeake, right at the entry at 32nd. And he usually is at the adult fitness equipment. She says the speakers are on the electrical box now.
Thanks, John.
I just have a question. Like, what's y'all's reaction to that? Like, are y'all just like trying to like prevent him from doing something versus like us intervening and like trying to like get him services? But like, what's y'all's like purpose? Like, because we can intervene, but like.
I think if I understand correctly, there's some questions about.
Excuse me, can you just identify yourself, please?
My name's Molly. I work for Friendship Place. We're a nonprofit that helps those
Okay.
homeless.
Your friend, I was trying to get his attention because he knows what I just said, John.
Well, it's only like 2 blocks down. Then you guys can go catch him.
Right, that's what I'm understanding. So like, do y'all want us to like have us say in that, or are y'all gonna?
Well, if he's at this point, our park is probably closed.
Right.
It's after dark, so he's gonna have to
Right,
leave.
so I'm just like trying to understand like what our role can be versus like. y'all
To be honest with you, I haven't met him, so I don't know. But
me neither. So
but
that's
you know,
what I'm trying to ask.
have you all identified the young man?
No.
You've got pictures?
I've seen what was sent in email
So we
thread,
have there's been no,
other than the special attention that Lieutenant Neal told you. But again, now we're here, you know what I mean?
okay.
So,
Because people ask me.
So that's what I'm trying to understand, like, do y'all want us to intervene and try to, like, figure out a plan for him, or do you want, like,
Well,
the police to
I could
intervene
probably
and,
answer that if someone from your office could meet the officers there.
Right.
And you could, I guess, first of all, identify yourself and let the officers know the purpose
So
of why
would
you're
y'all
there.
like for us to do that now?
Sure, sure. And if this individual does need help, then we really would like to get him some type of counseling or
Okay.
assistance.
I can go now.
Sure. Thank you.
That would be great, thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Thank you very much, Molly. Okay, there was some,
The other thing is, we've gotten a lot of, as you know, jaywalking occurring because of the West Metro Station closure at Van Ness. There used to be the tape up, which somebody asked tonight, that yellow tape is still around some of the trees and how to deal with that. But that's small potatoes compared with the people just rushing out across the street. They think they can make it, they can't sometimes. The cars are wishing past. We also have the same problem at the Connecticut and Ellicott intersection, which is a sightline problem, and I know Matt Marcoux is here from DDOT.
yes.
So and we have crossing guards that have been moved around from where they used to be, which I didn't want to go into until now. We need to kind of understand what's going on in our neighborhood, because the crossing guards used to be at Davenport in Connecticut, where there's a light, and it was great. Then they were moved up to Ellicott in Connecticut, which we have no idea what that was done. And they're not at their usual location at Nebraska and Reno, and they are at Reno and Davenport. So
we
there's
use
a lot
occupancy.
going
There
on
was,
here.
I got an email sent to me, and I forwarded it to Jeffrey Powell, who is with DDOT, and they forwarded it to, you mentioned the name.
Matthew Marcoux.
They said,
Right back here. He's gonna.
that guy? Oh, well, no, hey, man, come on, allow me to introduce him. So, again, with me, if it's a police department issue, I will say, now, do I wish I know your next question is pedestrian enforcement?
Yes.
To be honest with you, do I have an officer to stand on all these corners and ticket 50 people that all of a sudden decide at the last minute that they're going to rush the light? No, I don't. And I don't have an officer to put at all these corners when there is a function of DDOT having traffic monitors. So I'm not trying to say we're not going to do anything to help, but
Well, you did originally, when the stations first closed, you did have some officers there, and it was great. It was very helpful.
the only person I know that was doing anything before I got here was Franchek. That was, I believe,
Yes.
am I correct?
And he's been very good
Right.
at helping us.
But I only have, I didn't, how am I trying to say this? I don't want to give you the expectation that I'm going to have somebody at all of them, because I just don't have anybody to do it.
We
But,
understand that, but we also need to go on record that we've got these situations, and it's multiple situations.
We'll be able to conduct some enforcement, but like the lieutenant said, we wouldn't be able to put someone at every individual intersection, but we can impact each and every one at certain times. So we can actually do it.
Rush hours, morning rush hours.
Well, I think one of our frustrations is that we see, I guess it's Officer Franchek, and the car is parked in that alley, next to UDC. And I think if, the officer got out of the car and his presence were known more, that would help. I mean, he's there already, and I don't know, I just think
this was in the email chain.
if he's in the car
Yes.
as opposed to on the street, it's just not as effective. So
I'll take
I don't
that.
think
I would agree.
I will make sure. This is by the gym, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Again, I'm not trying to minimize anything. I'm just trying to keep everything within the realm of reality, what we can do, what we can't
Well,
do.
maybe we could meet you at some of these locations, and so you become familiar with We
I
have
think-
certain hotspots, definitely.
Absolutely. And it's all, like I said, I'm just hitting the ground, really not even out on the street, still behind the desk, but hopefully by the end of the month, I'll get that mitigated. I really don't want to take any more of the DOT guys.
Okay, we have a question for you from.
Yeah, one more question. And Commander Gresham, I know that I emailed you about this. Could you please update us on the status of the investigation into the assault that occurred on August 28th at 3003 Van Ness? One of our residents was assaulted in an elevator. We know there were witnesses and surveillance, but we have not heard about the progress of the
Yes,
investigation.
sure, I'd be more than happy to. As you had mentioned in one of the emails, there was a reference to one of the units in the building where 3 UDC students were living. The detectives went by the location, they met with all 3 residents, and the victim did not identify any of these individuals as being the perpetrators of the assault. One of the individuals actually provided proof that she was not in the area when this occurred, so the case is actually still open. It has not been closed.
Have you reviewed the surveillance? I understand there's surveillance video that captured some of the incident.
Yes.
So have you reviewed that? Is that being used to identify? Because of course it's possible that it's not the residents of this apartment, but actually visitors affiliated with
Yes.
it, right?
Yes, and unfortunately, it's still an open case.
So just to be clear about that, there's video that exists, and I know the story. The resident walked in, people called her within 20 seconds or something.
Well, there was a dispute, or I guess you could say argument on the elevator over an issue, and there was an assault that took place shortly thereafter. It was unprovoked, and there was video footage, but again, it's still an open case.
So, but you've been unable to identify the video footage of 30 seconds after she walked in, a group of 5.
Well, what that means is we have not identified those responsible for the assault.
Just one more question about it. So
Sure.
you do know the unit that the assailants fled to, right?
Well, this is still an open case. I can't release any of the specific details right now, but again, it's still an open case, and we have not been able to identify those who were responsible for the assault. The victim has been very cooperative. The detectives have met with her on a number of occasions, and unfortunately, she has not been able to identify those who were responsible.
I asked just because presumably the folks who live in the apartment where the assailants fled do know these people, and they know who they are, so they would seem to be a good source of information on that.
Well, it has not been released yet, no, that information. No.
Thank you.
Okay, Lieutenant Durant stepped out, I think, to speak with Officer Hanson, but if there's nothing else.
No, not unless there's some questions or concerns that they've got to address.
I've got a question about statistics, which your colleague mentioned. He said something about a 34% drop.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
You said something, your colleague said something about statistics, and
Yes.
there's a 34% drop in crime. What would be useful is actually just to know the cumulative numbers for the, say, for the year, in robberies, burglaries, etc. And the reason why that's important, people see it in the Northwest Current, it goes by and then it's gone. I'm at 3003 Van Ness, I'm the president of the Tenants Association. There was a rash of burglaries last year and the year before, and there was a lot of fear in the residents about that. There's high incentive by the management to not spread that information around, and also there's really not that much security in the building. We've been pushing for security. So we need those statistics in order to make the case. Now, I know that there is online, I can see, it's put up by the police department, a scattershot kind of map that has little dots where some of the crimes occur. But I also know that that's not specific enough to know where they occur. And also, having done the research for the burglaries about a year ago, or a little bit less than that, that is not updated frequently enough to give you an idea about what's actually going on. So I had to go into the police records, record by record, compile how many burglaries took place in the building. And it was over 20 over a year-and-a-half period. So it was quite a high number.
I do remember there was a rash of
burglaries. How can we get to that information in a timely way that is accurate, that gives people a sense of precisely where those things took place, so that people in the buildings can advocate for their security?
Well, unfortunately, when the crime stats are disseminated, they don't list a location by name. It only gives a numerical address. You would have to actually make a specific request for the location.
Well, they don't even give a numerical address, they give a range of addresses.
Well, and that's for privacy reasons. It will say like the 3000 block of Van Ness. But if you want more specificity, you'd have to make the specific request for that location.
Right. This is a building of 600 residents, so there's no privacy issue to say that it's 3,003 Van Ness.
I understand your perspective, but still, we can't give like an apartment number because there are privacy issues. But if you want for the specific location, like the 3003 address of Van Ness, you would have to make a specific request.
Yeah, I did that before. It took me weeks to get that done. So who do I ask to have that policy changed? Because for a building with 600 residents...
Well, unfortunately, they're not going to change the policy. They may expedite the process of honoring your request, but they're not going to change the policy.
Okay, well, that's a plaintiff dispute because it does not help us make the building safer if we can't figure out what's going on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Commander Gresham and Lieutenant Durant.
We plan on, there'll be a monthly presence.
That's wonderful. Thank you very
Once
much.
things get a little tied down, we try to, I'm sure it's not just all 203 rather, but maybe something a little more localized for 203. Okay? Everybody, listen, thanks for having me, and
We
look
appreciate
forward to
your
working
time.
with you, okay? Have a great evening.
Very much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is an update by Lana. I see Cedric Watson is here.
Good evening. My name is Cedric Watson, and I'm here with WADA to give you an update on the Van Ness escalator replacement project. I did come prepared to share a presentation with you all, but I see we don't have the projector here available. So I'm going to ask the commissioners if they could be able to post the presentation that I have handed out to them so they can share with the community so that they can have a copy of the update. So again, thank you all for having us here again. Since the last time we met from the previous meeting, a lot has taken place. As you all know, in June, we closed the west entrance of the Van Ness station. During that time, we've been underway replacing the escalators. Thus far, we've been able to replace the street elevator, remove it, so that we can continue the process of replacing the number 4 escalator, which is currently under construction. We've been very successful in doing so to where we are able to now say that we are currently installing the escalator trusses. That work is for the number 4 escalator. That's the long intermediate escalator in the station, and we're in the process of completing that installation of the trusses themselves by the end of this week. So we're moving right along, making good progress. So we are, anticipating, moving forward to where we can get to reopening the stairs. Speaking of the stairs, as you all know, last time we reported that once we removed the street escalator, that we had to do an assessment of the stairs to see what the integrity of it was. That report came back to identify that there were some corrosion, some deterioration, and some sediment underneath the slab concrete around that area, which needed to be repaired. So we do have some remedial repairs necessary to the stairs that we're underway addressing at this moment. So we are very successful with now that we are planning at this present point in time and projecting that the stairs themselves can be temporarily repaired until we get a vehicle in place to establish the permanent fix during this process. But looking ahead on the schedule, where we stand today, as I reported earlier, we're rigging in the new trusses and we'll be finished with that this week. Assembly of that escalator will continue to take place throughout until January 2016. The stair opening after the temporary repairs, we're anticipating to reopen that about mid-October, so that we can continue to allow the process to take place on number 4 while that's underway, and the public would have access to the west entrance. So that's where we are today. We do plan to have a schedule going forward with the opening and closing of the stairs. Currently, right now, as we complete the number 4 unit come February 2016, that's when we anticipate having to close the entrance back again so that we can start the process all over again for removing the number 5 escalator, which is the middle escalator in the station of the long ending escalators. Again, so therefore we have that cycle, which will continue to repeat itself anywhere from 6 to 7 months, so that we can get the old escalators out and the new escalators in. And during those periods, between those 6 to 7 months, we will be able to open the stairs. So there will be a cycle of time when the stairs will be open. We'll be providing that schedule as soon as we get to the next phase. But today I can gladly report that we anticipate reopening the west entrance come mid-October.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Mr. Waston. Let's entertain first questions from the commissioners. Anything?
That's great. We're excited the stairs will be open. I'll take some pressure off of Park Van Ness for a little bit until they can get open, hopefully in February. Well, they say they're going to be open at the end of the year, so that would be great. How long do you think the stairs will be open?
The stairs we'll be opening the stairs mid-October and we'll be closing them in February of next year,
Close them
2016.
in February, okay. So hopefully all of Park Van Ness will be done by March 16th, so that's great. Can we also get, this is a good overall construction schedule until next February, I think. Is there a way we can get a more timeline of what's being done construction-wise?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
A more detailed construction management. This is very good for an overall.
Right. See, okay, we can certainly do that. This year, I just want to share the milestones from where we are, but for the commissioners, we can get to the detail of.
I know you said you need a little more time to do that, but we would appreciate that we can kind of follow your progress when people call us and say, what's going on?
Oh, absolutely. We can certainly provide that.
How long do you anticipate the stairs being closed in February or March? What's that?
We're talking 6 to 7 months because that's the time it's going to take us to remove the number 5 escalator. We'll be starting that number 5 escalator as soon as we recommission and put the number 4 escalator in service. So we would need to close the entrance so that we can start the demolition process and the rigging and the removal of the old escalator and bring the new one in. And we try to ensure that the contractor is steadily progressing with the process of doing so that we can open the stairs, because we know the stairs are very important to this community, and given all the communications with out here with the jaywalking and pedestrian safety, we certainly want to do our part to ensure that the stairs are available so that we can give you some relief in that area. And just like Shirley reported that with Park Van Ness opening late this year, we should have some ease of congestion.
That still won't stop the jaywalking, but at least it'll take some of the pressure out. Right. So you're thinking roughly September 2016?
Yeah, in the fall.
In the fall.
Yes.
And then there'll be one more closure after that, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Until we complete the replacement of the number 6 escalator.
Which likely be somewhere around the same timeline. If this is opening up in September, we would expect them to be closed in February or March of 2016.
Right, so give every 6 to 7 months.
Okay.
Our goal is to do better, but that's where we are right now, and we are making good progress. Contractually, you know, we are a little ahead by a couple of weeks, but we can lose that at any point. I'm just crossing my finger for good weather this year, so that we don't have any delays.
And then, you know, once that's closed, that's the last one that needs to be removed, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, a question of clarification here about the stairs. The stair condition update, on one of the slides, it says remediation work is required.
Yes.
And then on the very next page, it says they're found to be structurally sound.
Yeah, they are structurally sound. But the mediation is, the deterioration of the stairs subside with the underside, where we have some corrosion with the concrete. What we call it spalling, it's cracking and falling down, but the concrete is sound.
Okay.
That has to be chipped and removed in the area refurbished so that it looks structurally solid.
Okay.
It gives it additional life.
Thank you.
And that's a one-time remediation, but that's not something we'll have to do every other.
Oh no, that's one time. That's why we're planning now to do a temporary repair on this, just to give ourselves that comfort level to know that we have taken those precautions, and then we'll continue to make the repairs not only on the stairs but also surrounding the entranceway, because there's a lot of cracked granite and uneven sidewalks, but that's due to over time the setting bed underneath that granite has washed out. If you know, it's on a grade. So over time, once those cracks have gotten into the underneath the granite, it has washed the setting bed away. So we have to go back and re-level that so that we can eliminate any of the tripping hazards.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions from commissioners? Commissioner Ray?
Thank you so much.
We had one question, I think, from somebody in the audience. It was answered? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Please don't tell them that we're sorry for a loss.
The next item on the agenda is the discussion of the Van Ness pedestrian hazards with PDOT. Matt, Marku, somebody want to?
Hi.
You're up.
Actually,
Bill?
it's good to see you. How are you? I feel like it's a home day. Metaphorically, I mean that. Because I haven't been here in a little while, and I was here. I actually came here to hear the WMATA update. I'm not here to talk specifically to the pedestrian matters. I wasn't even aware that there was an invitation to DDOT for it. So I apologize for that, but I do know that we have a meeting with the ANC in the field on the 21st, so on Monday, that we've been arranging. We will have several members from I know that we will have representatives from DDOT there to go over a variety of concerns that have been raised, including Wyndham, including the no parking sign, the anchor sign on the north end of the apartment building adjacent to the construction zone at 4455, among others. And so I do apologize for any
I haven't gotten an email on that. This is the first time we've heard, and I didn't get a response to my email to you or to the director.
Okay, well, that's because, so we're slightly delayed on that because there is a visit from Pope Francis. And just as an aside, please let me be very clear. Please stay home. Please telecommute. Please take public transportation. WMATA is prepared for you. Please do not drive unless absolutely necessary on the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th. We will. The impacts. Ultimately, the impacts will be citywide. So let me point out something that the lieutenant was pointing out. If people want to go east to west across the city and they're normally used to doing so downtown or even midtown, they will use Military Road. At this point, they'll use Military to go across to Missouri. It's a very efficient way of getting across town. It's actually how I got here from PSA 507 from this evening to get here for this meeting as well. So please, on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, to the greatest extent possible, please stay home, telecommute, walk, bike, please do public transportation, but please do not drive unless necessary. However, to the main question that you had for DDOT, I'm going to have to go back and look, but I don't think that we had, I was not aware of this invitation. I apologize. But I will make sure that we do have a response to the questions that you've raised. I know that our office is going back and discussing Wyndham, for example, and as I pointed out, the missing anchor sign on the north side of the zone on the east side of Connecticut.
4411.
Right, 4411. And I know that we've maxed out as we pointed out previously, I think I was here earlier this summer, because we are still technically in summer, pointing out that we have maximized the pedestrian timing along Albemarle, along VZ, et cetera. But we have not lost sight of the email. I apologize that I didn't get back to you earlier, but we are preparing for that event next week. I would say that much of the preparation has been done.
It would be nice to know when that is. You're saying it's October 21st, at what time?
No, September 21st.
Oh, September.
But I'll get back to you. So, perhaps I'm conflating.
Okay.
Because when I saw that this was on the agenda, I reached out to Aaron Rose to check on circumstances, and he felt that there was a meeting, so I'll double check that.
Because we have a list of probably about 10 items, which you know at least about 5 of them. So, I just want a little heads up on it so we can get our list together from all the commissioners.
I understand.
This is correspondence between Secretary, do you call him Secretary Dormshow? Director Dormshow and me. And I think you're copied on those.
Yes. The one where he used, yes.
Yeah. And then Commissioner Nugent wrote in some, and then I wrote in some.
Right.
So, and then there are additional ones, like we've got about timing is more on Wisconsin than on Connecticut. I mean, there's some things we just need to go over as far as the signals.
So perhaps it might be helpful if after the meeting, if I could perhaps meet with one or two of you, kind of go through the list from those emails, make sure that we have a comprehensive list, because it is important that we get you all of the information that you're looking for.
Correct.
And just to confirm that we're on the same page about exactly what you're looking for. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda are 3 grant applications. The first is the IONA request for $2,500 to assist with the printing of the Senior Resource Guide.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Messina, the Director of Development and Communications at Iona Senior Services. Thank you for letting me come tonight and describe our grant proposal, which is asking for $2,500 to support the printing of our 19th edition of our resource guide, which is full of aging-related resources for older people. It's free of charge. We print them every 2.5 years. We're printing 30,000 right now. We printed 30,000. Here's one of them. They're distributed throughout the city, but heavily in Ward 3. We're in Tenleytown. We've been serving the city for 40 years. Older adults and their family caregivers. Our goal is to keep people home as long as possible, and this book is full of information that will do that. So the cost for printing was $25,500 roughly, so a little bit less than $1 a book, free of charge. It is available online as well, but many of our senior citizens either don't have computers or want to have a hard copy to write in and mark up, so it's an important resource. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Can you was written, but I don't remember because I wasn't in commission in 2010. Do you know what we gave you on?
Yes,
Was it for-
I wish she was still here. 99% it was for the sidewalk project
That's
that
right.
Warren was doing, yeah.
The sidewalk project.
Yep.
That we didn't get a lot. We got some done.
We
but-
worked really hard and had a lot of information and we still need sidewalks, yeah.
Yeah.
But that was before my time.
Okay.
See, your total cost was 25,000, but you're asking us
For 2,500.
2,500. I believe, I'm not even sure who's on our grants.
Do you have rules about
But I
percentages?
think our rules, yeah.
It did, not that we saw, but that doesn't mean that we won't abide by them. Take any money you're willing to give us.
Oh, okay.
Put it
Well,
that way.
I'd love to give you the whole thing, honestly, but we have to follow the rules. But I think that our rules require that we cannot vote on it tonight.
Correct.
That we
I've been told that.
Entertain it,
Yeah.
and we'll let him know
Yeah.
what the next time.
Absolutely.
The grants committee, by the way, is Adam, Maliki, and myself.
Oh, good.
So you have one
So,
person.
I'm supposed, do we have a rule of percentages of a project that a
I don't think so. I think what it is, we have to ensure that we're not fully funding something that benefits people outside of our ANC.
Definitely.
So for
In
example,
this
we
case,
couldn't do the whole 25,000 because it benefits all of Ward 3 or whatever.
But you're asking for 2,500.
Correct.
Right. She's
It's not a full day.
Right, so.
And are
And
you
it is
asking
okay.
other ANCs?
Yes, ANC3B gave us the check last week, and my colleagues saw either C or D, I must confess, I forget, last week also, and they are like you, waiting for that month. We did get $2,500 from the Rotary Foundation of Washington DC, and $2,000 from Poor Roberts Charities, so we do have some funding. I'll just say, we used to get this funded by Bloomberg DNA for free. They still do some of our printing, but they don't do it all, and so we need to fund it out of charity.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you.
My name is David Bardeen.
Wait,
I-
excuse me, is this about this?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, so,
I live in ANC 3F. I use Iona Senior Services. So do my neighbors in my building. I contribute personally, my wife and I, to them, and I strongly endorse this request.
thank
Thank you, sir. I didn't plant you.
Thank you.
I'm going to do the same. I'm Terry Baker. I live in Van Ness North and caregiver for now just my mom, but my parents lived in the Van Ness South 3003 building. And Iona has saved my life. And I can't say enough about it. When I first got into this, began this journey, as I like to say, that resource guide was invaluable. So
It's good to hear, thank you.
we love you.
And I call my board member Susan Linsky.
I'm Susan Linsky. I live at 34th and Fessenden, and I'm on the board of Iona. And I would really appreciate the ANC supporting them because they do a valued service, keeping a lot of people in this neighborhood in their homes and taking care of people during the day when their caregivers need to be at work.
Thank you. So thank you again,
Thank you,
Susan.
thank you.
The Second District MPD Citizens Advisory Council.
There's no way I'm gonna top that one, but,
Okay.
I don't have any plans. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Brian Termel, and I'm the chairman of the Citizens Advisory Council for Metropolitan Police Department, Second District. We're both a sort of advocacy and a support group for the Second District, so that sort of originally were created back when there was a lot of mistrust between the community and the police. We meet right away with the police and get updates on crime statistics, and like you guys, sort of pressure the police to make sure they're taking appropriate steps to protect our community. But we also do primarily two support operations for the police. We feed them lunch every spring, and lunch really starts at 11 a.m. and goes to midnight, depending on the shift that start. And then every year we do an awards banquet for the officers, and in fact we award. And this year we'll be awarding 25 officers and civilians for outstanding service in protecting the Second District. And that's also our fundraiser that allows us to have some money to support the police when they do a haunted house at the police station during Halloween, or hold a holiday party for the community around the holiday time. We're asking for a $750 grant to pay a portion of the cost of producing the awards plaques for the officers and for the civilians. ANC 3 E has this year also provided, has been generous enough to provide $750 to help us with the cost as well. And the plaques themselves are produced by the Fraternal Order of Police. We've shopped it out many times now, and they give us the best deal by far of any of the folks providing awards and plaques. And then the money we give to them, some of it goes back to the officers as well, so it kind of helps out a little bit there. So we're requesting your support, and obviously I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And we're excited that we've got about 100 people coming to the awards banquet this year and 25 different businesses supporting some of the other costs. And ask for your support, please.
Thank you very much. I have any questions for you? Okay, so again, my understanding now of the rules is that we will vote on this at next month's meeting, and we'll obviously let you know.
Great. One other point I forgot to mention is that we generally, as an MO, try and go from different ANCs each year. So last year we went to, what was it, they call those 3-4G, and then we'll be hitting other ANCs. So you won't hear from me again, after this, hopefully, so at least for a while. Thank you.
Okay, and the last grant request is Hillwood grant request for $3,000 for erosion controls.
While I walk up, I will actually also give another just shout out. I am a long-time admirer of your work and the impact you have on our community, and I consider them extraordinary stewards of their resources. So I thank you for what you do. I'm Angie Dodson. I am the Chief Operating Officer at Hillwood, and I am here representing our Executive Director, who, poor her, is touring the Loire Valley with some of our patrons at the museum, so I had to stay home and mind the shop. I'm also a 3F resident at 3901 Connecticut Avenue, so I won't be doing anything other than walking on the 23rd, 24th, 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, because I just have a lovely 4-block commute between my home and my place of employment. Are you all familiar with Hillwood? Should I describe it for anyone? Okay, so we are on a hill in the woods, and we have some erosion issues, and we have been working with Pat and with the district's Department of the Environment and with the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club to look at the impact that our erosion issues have on the public lands that are our neighbors. Specifically looking at the trails on those lands, and out of concern for the folks who use those trails and that land, we would like to partner with those other organizations, and we seek about $3,000 in ANC money to do some mitigation work on our property so that we do not continue to contribute to the problems of our neighboring properties. Pat, I'm going to look at you and help me estimate the size of this hillside that we're looking at Hillwood. Is it 25 yards, 50 yards, something like that? Yards. What we're talking about is a gully on our north side. Stormwater collects there, it runs down, and it hits our fence line where we abut Soapstone Park. And we have water running off, it's running into their water runoff, and it's really undermining the integrity of their trails. So what we would like to do is to ask for your support in buying about $1,500 worth of materials, $1,500 worth of plant materials. We will provide the expertise from our own horticultural staff. We will provide the manpower and the equipment in realizing this plan. And what the plan is to simply put down jute matting over the surface of the hillside, and that keeps the topsoil from running down the hill when we have hard rains. You may be familiar with the work that Dumbarton Oaks Park has done. They have similar challenges at their site, and they have sort of terracing is, I think, a familiar term for us, and they've used these kind of long tubes made out of natural material. They're coconut logs, they're coir, they're made out of all kinds of hemp and just all kinds of sturdy but biodegradable materials, and they sort of stake them along the hillside to cut down on the velocity and the volume of water that courses across the landscape. And when you do that, it gives you a nice short-term solution to your problem. but it also contributes to a longer-term solution. We will plant, as I said, about $1,500 of native plant materials in that biodegradable material, and as the material biodegrades over time, the plants that are selected because they're very deep rooted and are going to help to keep that hillside in place will have a chance to really take hold and not be washed away and washed away and washed away with each of our kind of violent storms that we're seeing more and more of in our area. So that's what we're looking to do, and after 3 to 5 years, when all of that material that we've imposed on the landscape has melted away, we will have plants in place that are the best long-term defense that we have against this kind of stormwater erosion. So that's what we're looking to do. Questions?
I'm sorry, I think I missed something. You said that you're looking for $1,500 for the plant material for the long-term solution.
And then $1,500 for the short-term solution that is the coir and the coconut logs and all this. We're actually looking at 2 different kinds of material. There's one that's more appropriate for the top of the landscape. There's another that's more appropriate for the bottom. True confessions, I'm a museum educator who's up here talking environmental and green, so my learning curve is just super steep right now. But we do have great expertise among our staff, and I think we've come up with a great solution that has the potential to really create sustainable parklands and to not undermine the path work that is going on those properties. And it's our intention to be a good steward of our environment and a good neighbor to all of our surrounding properties, many of which are public lands.
Thank you.
I just wanted to contribute real quick and say that we're dying from the Mayor's Office of Community Relations to do a little service project. We were just at the Potomac Conservancy this past weekend picking up trash in the C&O Canal, and I can think of a few AU students who work with our office quite often, and I'm willing to go out myself if you were able to get everything together and you needed additional manpower. So just something to consider as well as part of the deal.
That's great. I'll give you my card when I come back to my seat.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you very much. Ooh, I apologize. I'm sorry.
Well, I know that Pat is coming on the agenda about reconstituting the subcommittee on soapstone. So I take it you've talked with Hillwood about this, and is your thinking that what they're proposing as far as the matting and the planting, all of that sounds good to you?
Yeah, I've worked pretty closely with Angie and then also representatives from the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club. I'm not an expert on the subject, but you know,
You're getting to be.
What?
You're getting.
We're all getting to be.
When we're working with those who are, and it seems like a good solution to a problem that's becoming a bigger and bigger one for soapstone. And you know, my hope is not only that we can help with this project, that it also serves as an example to some of the other large property owners around Hillwood, around Soapstone, Melvin Hazen, and that we can go into more of a comprehensive effort. I would, you know, we'll be bringing it up, you know, to talk in detail on the subcommittee, but, you know, I think we all see it as sort of a longer range plans of having that sort of comprehensive focus on.
So you'd like to see this piecemeal, and then maybe we can build on it?
Yes, I see this as the first step in a journey to have a very comprehensive effort. Yeah, for a larger water mitigation, stormwater mitigation.
David.
I'm David Bardeen, 4701 Connecticut. I want to support this grant application. Commissioner Jakovchik held a meeting, which two of you, the rest of you were there, just a few, 3 of you were a few nights ago, and mentioned this specific project, both specifically and in the broader context that you were just talking about. And Alex Sanders of the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club was there, and he spoke very positively about the immediate threat to the trail due to the erosion coming down. So I think this is a great example of everybody getting together, just the way that should happen in our city, to solve one piece of the problem. And on Hosanna on that. And as far as the rest goes, the commissioner has all these ideas of getting other private property owners I have the idea, eventually convincing our great city and our great mayor that there's a lot to be done not only in the public spaces, in the private spaces, but in the public spaces, including right outside here with the water rushing down Connecticut Avenue. So this is a wonderful example of this ANC with this Hillwood Museum, with these other organizations all moving together and setting a great example. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If there's no other discussion, we'll move on the agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a motion to create a standing committee for the Soapstone, Melvin Hazen Trails and Parks Subcommittee. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second? Okay, some discussion?
Yeah, I'll leave the discussion on this, but, what we've seen is that, I guess, let me just take a step back. I'll be very quick with this. I don't think this is a very controversial subcommittee to do. I feel, and I know that sentiment is shared by many up here and out there, that Soapstone Valley, Melvin Hazen, trails within them, and the nature that they contain within their borders are some of the biggest gems of the area in which we live. And they're facing, a crisis at times, be it from stormwater runoff threatening the trails, other erosion items like that. And then also, they're facing a question about what we see for them, in the long-term presence of them within our community. What do we want them to be? And because of the value they offer our community, the value that they offer people who live by them, who walk by them, and to have a slice of nature in their otherwise rather urban lives, they're valued by a lot of us. And to answer those threats and those questions, we've talked more and more about having a subcommittee devoted to those issues. Sometimes they will be very, localized issues, like the one at Hillwood we just discussed about. Otherwise, other times they're much larger in scope. Like the sewer rehabilitation project that's going on, has been in planning for 2 years now, and will likely be in more planning and more execution for an additional time. And because of that, I think it makes sense to be able to speak with a very concerted focus and one voice on a lot of these issues, and to really dig into them and have a sort of clearinghouse for ANC when issues that deal with these trails and parks come up. So what I proposed is putting together a subcommittee that'll take a look at both Soapstone Valley, which we have in the past, and then actually expanding its portfolio to include the Melvin Hazen parks, which are actually both sides of Connecticut. Both these parks are, the majority of them are completely within ANC 3F. There's a part of Melvin Hazen East, which might be just outside its borders, but the majority are within there, and therefore we have the purview to do it. We have, the initiative to do it, and I would like to start a standing subcommittee that can deal with these issues both with the current term of ours and then have it outlast this term because these issues aren't going away. So that's why I moved to create a standing subcommittee to deal specifically with Soapstone Valley and the Melvin Hazen Parks and Trails.
Thank you, Commissioner Coffey. Is there any other discussion on the part of the other commissioners? Yeah.
I just have a friendly amendment. I would just add to your clauses, something like whereas ANC 3F has, previously acknowledged the importance of Soapstone Valley Park, and we had an ad hoc committee devoted to Soapstone from 2013 to 2015. And so this is not a new idea. This is really just a continuation of what we were doing. I mean, I think it's important to note that the committee has, or the ANC has valued Soapstone for more than just
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
So, friendly amendment.
I agree that it's a friendly amendment, so I will add that to the resolution.
Any other discussion from the commissioners?
Well, this is just part of it, kind of, the E. coli problem. Is there an update on that? I've been out of town for a couple weeks.
Could you identify yourself?
Oh, sorry. I'm Kate Dell, Van Ness North.
Yeah. So the E. coli, it hasn't been removed from the park, but the leak has been contained, and I'm not sure if there have been tests since then, but
Well, there were two sources. One was the leak down on Audubon Terrace, and then the other they discovered further up by Albemarle on 32nd Street. I know David is itching to jump in on this now. Do you want to jump in?
No, I'm not itching to jump in, because there's other things to worry about. But there's a major source of E. coli, and it's not this little leak that was fixed. Nobody knows exactly where it's coming from. Last we heard, it's under investigation by the District Department of Energy and Environment, formerly DDOE. It's under investigation by DC Water. It's under, very interested in the National Park Service. And you've got to understand that the part of Soapstone Creek, which is right near Connecticut and right near Albemarle, was designated as an impaired waterway of the District of Columbia by the Department, which was then DDOE. So was Melvin Hazen Creek. So was a whole bunch of other creeks. It's a big issue, and I'm not prepared to discuss it. I don't know enough about it. But there's a lot to find out.
So that's why this committee is a good idea, because it would give an added voice and
Right.
energy to it.
DC Water was doing DNA testing to determine the source of the E. coli leak, and I have not heard anything about that. Maybe Commissioner DeCosta can check on the status of that. They weren't sure if it was human or animal.
Okay. This is discussion on the motion to approve the subcommittee. That's the discussion. Yes?
The agenda says create a standing committee.
Yes.
You want a standing subcommittee, should it be?
No, it's committee.
So it's not a subcommittee,
It's not
it's a standing committee.
The bylaws would call it a committee.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Is it appropriate to also ask if this committee would also include looking into the application for historic designation as requested by National Park Service?
Yes, that'll be one of the focuses of our subcommittee. It's definitely on our agenda. We spoke about it a few nights ago, and we'll be being able to dig into that issue much more deeply going forward and present the committee's recommendations to the full commission going forward.
That's really recommendations. You can also put that in there. Or historic designation.
Yeah, I think there's so many issues of focus that we discussed. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And Pat, are you proposing the membership list for the committee?
I have not.
I think technically the membership has to be approved, but you can do that.
At the next one. Okay.
Okay, there was one more comment?
My name is Deborah Russick, 35-year resident of the Van Ness East. My apartment happens to look out on the park because I'm in apartment 1240 for 35 plus years. Very concerned, I'm here for this issue, but we have some people at Van Ness East who have an environmental lawyer, you know Mr. Fox. I don't know whether you told them that he's been spending his almost entire life as an environmental lawyer on this issue. It's very important for you to know that we are going ahead with whatever we're going ahead with, and I don't know what your subcommittee is, but we have issues that are related to this Van Ness property, and I don't know if Shirley told you, but I'm here specifically for this issue. I'm sorry I'm upset, but I feel that this is an extremely important issue that needs people like an environmental lawyer like Mr. Fox, and whoever else is going to be on the subcommittee. So that's all I have to say. But we're going ahead.
No, I understand.
Did you know that NS East is working on this issue?
I did. Your commissioner's part has been meeting with me as part of the subcommittee we talked to, and Mr. Fox was actually a member.
Okay, I feel better.
Mm-hmm. So.
And there's one other person who is playing a big role there, so.
I would be happy to connect with you, Deborah, to make sure that that other person
Yeah,
I connect with also.
I
But
just
Mr. Fox
don't
is
want this
in
to
the
go
loop.
by the wayside. As a big supporter of the national park system in the United States of America all of my life, and I'm in my 80s, the National Park Service is going to have the final word, and we have to make sure that they have all the information. And I don't know the information. Maybe Patrick does, but I know that Mr. Fox might have it.
Sure. So two things. I agree.
I thank you very much.
We couldn't agree with you more that this cannot fall by the wayside. That is one of the main reasons underscoring the creation of this committee. And two, about weighing in, we'll be discussing a motion to send a letter very soon before the draft EAE, environmental assessment even comes out, and try to weigh in on that process as soon as we can.
I just will be very happy to know you're taking part in it.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of establishing a standing committee for Soapstone Valley and Melvin C. Hazen Parks and Trails, say aye. Aye. Motion passes 5-0-0. Okay. Is there anyone here from 4209 Linnaean? Okay, so that stays off the agenda. Okay, now the few things that were added. The Acacia Bistro.
Yes.
For Great Street Drive?
Yes. So the city has once again made Great Streets grants available to our stretch of Connecticut Avenue. And this is a wonderful opportunity to encourage small and local businesses to improve their streetscape or to make other needed improvements. We all want to encourage more small and local retail, more interesting retail in our neighborhoods. And so the city's Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development has really shown terrific initiative. You all might remember last year, Bread First applied for this grant and won it. So they won $85,000. You can now walk down the street and see the beautiful landscaping, which was done by Marjorie Scher, one of our Main Street Committee members. And they've also done some changes on the inside, including a marble community table and some ovens. The grant that's available now is only $50,000, but that can still be meaningful, of course, to a small business. So our economic committee of the Van Ness Main Streets has been out meeting with eligible businesses and encouraging them to apply for these grants. It's quite a complicated process, and it's lengthy, and most of these small businesses are just trying to stay alive and run their businesses. Often there are language issues, and the grant requirements are very cumbersome. But we do have one small business that we think is going to apply. We hope they're going to be successful, and so my resolution tonight is just for our ANC to support our Acacia Bistro and really encourage the city to make this grant. So I'm just going to quickly run through the resolution so everybody knows the language of it, since it wasn't circulated too long ago. Whereas the Office of the Deputy Mayor for Planning and Economic Development is soliciting grant applications from eligible small business owners who wish to improve their place of business. Whereas the purpose of the Great Streets Retail Small Business Reimbursement Grants is to support existing small businesses, attract new businesses, increase the district's tax base, create new job opportunities for district residents, and transform emerging commercial corridors into thriving and inviting neighborhood centers. Whereas Acacia, a full-service restaurant at 4340 Connecticut Avenue, is seeking this grant to improve its business by upgrading its interior decor and exterior design, by purchasing a new POS system and installing a new pizza oven. And the ANC strongly supports the development and success of fine dining establishments such as Acacia and Van Ness Commercial Corridor. And whereas ANC3F believes that the improvements proposed by Acacia will draw more customers to dine there, thereby increasing foot traffic and promoting business and retail activity in Van Ness Corridor. Therefore, be it resolved, ANC3F urges DMPED to award Acacia a Great Streets grant. Is there a second?
Second.
And I also want to just say that Deepa Mehta, who serves on our economic committee, is a truly amazing person. She is a retired lawyer who has spent dozens of hours with Mark Furstenberg at Red First and now with Turker at Acacia Bistro. And I just want to acknowledge her hard work.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I have a question. Is the pizza oven going outside? Is that why you say interior decor and exterior design?
No, I think the pizza oven's inside.
Okay, so what are they proposing for exterior design?
They're still working on the details, but signage is one of their big issues, as well as a more cohesive landscape.
Could you add that into the resolution? Just kind of oversees the exterior?
Sure.
What do you say? Exterior.
Creating its interior.
It's interior decor, and then by purchasing blah blah blah,
including signage and landscape and unified landscape.
Yes. Okay. I think that would help.
Okay. Anything else from the commissioners?
I just want to, echo my support of this. I know Turker's had a really tough time with the construction, taking away a bunch of lunch business and things like that. I think the Van Ness Main Street's probably doing a great job attracting businesses, and this is the exact sort of thing we should be supporting to bring more businesses to our community.
Any discussion from anyone? Okay. Then let's vote. All of those in favor of the resolution to support the Acacia Street Great Street Grant? 500. Thank you. And Van Ness Main Street. Okay. So we did that wrong. Do we hear a motion?
Yes.
Sorry.
For Acacia.
For Acacia.
Let's move on to Van Ness.
Okay, we're on to Main Street.
Main Street application. Do we have a motion? Yeah, okay. Do we have a second? And we have a second. Discussion.
Okay. So you want me to tee it up first? Okay.
I thought the motion has to come first.
We have to
The
make a
motion is
motion
first,
first,
and then the
second,
discussion.
and then you
Okay, well,
explain
just tee
it.
it up and then make the motion. Okay. Okay, that's fine. So the Van Ness Vision Committee has worked for 2.5 years to make our neighborhood more beautiful and more economically vibrant. And we've had probably over 100 people in the community participate in various aspects of Van Ness Main Streets. We have put together a brochure that highlights the work of the committee. And we're now at the stage where we need a management structure for our street. We've identified a program called Main Streets that is administered by the DC Department of Small and Local Business Development, DSLBD. And Councilmember Mary Che has allocated proposed legislation, which has passed the City Council, to allocate $200,000 for a Van Ness Main Street. So the successor organization to the Van Ness Vision Committee is Van Ness Main Streets, Inc. We are now incorporated. We're applying for 501c3 status. We have a business license, and we are applying for this grant. What it means is we would be able to hire an executive director and fund streetscape improvements as well as events and promotional activities, other ways to promote our small local businesses along the Van Ness corridor. It's a really exciting time. So this resolution would be in support of that. I would also like to ask the ANC to commit to inviting an application for a grant in the future by the Van Ness Main Streets. So I'll just run through the motion very quickly. Whereas the Van Ness corridor of Connecticut Avenue is underperforming with vacant retail spaces, a shortage of small and local businesses, an unfriendly streetscape, traffic, concrete, and pedestrian challenges. The Van Ness Vision Committee was established by ANC resolution in March 2013 and was created to help make Van Ness more economically vibrant and sustainably beautiful. The committee has worked for 2.5 years with over 100 volunteers to engage with community stakeholders, including UDC, WAMU, Fannie Mae, merchants like Acacia, Calvert Woodley, and Red First, and residents. The Van Ness Vision Committee has led 2 design charrettes, 2 meet and greets, planted 3,000 daffodils, hosted a jazz concert at Acacia, co-hosted a jazz concert at UDC, and a caroling event. To become more effective, the Van Ness Vision Committee Incorporated is now Van Ness Main Streets, Inc., applying for 501c3 status with a 12-member board of directors and 4 working committees, including representatives of our diverse stakeholders, UDC, WAMU, merchants, and residents. Whereas Councilmember Mary Che and the City Council set aside $200,000 to fund Van Ness Main Street. Whereas Van Ness Main Streets is applying to be designated Van Ness Main Street grant recipient. Whereas ANC3F encourages the Van Ness Main Streets, Inc. to apply for a grant in the upcoming year to provide an avenue for the ANC to support its efforts. Now therefore be it resolved that ANC3F urges DSLPD to designate Van Ness Main Streets, Inc. as the recipient of the Van Ness Main Street grant. Commissioners Adam Tope and Mary Beth Ray are designated to represent ANC3F in matters relating to the grant.
Discussion from any of the other commissioners? No? Discussion from anyone else? Okay. All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Okay. Passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is a letter about Soapstone Trail.
Motion to discuss. So, in terms of the exact motion, it has to do with expressing the ANC's sentiments that the sewer rehabilitation matter in front of Soapstone and the different details involved with it are of great importance to us and our community, and expressing that sentiment to DC Water as they're directing up the current environmental assessments, and CCing the National Park Service on it. We've realized that there are a host of issues in front of that in terms of this potential project. David's done yeoman's work in relating them on to DC Water and passing our questions along. At some point, we'll have a chance to specifically outline some issues and potential options, be they pump stations or the noise and the smell, or basically the plans in general. But at this point, we feel it's important for us to weigh in as an ANC, expressing a general sentiment that it is an important issue, to highlight some general concerns and things we'd like addressed in it, and we'd like to write a letter expressing that and sending it on to DC Water before the EA gets announced. So I'm happy to discuss that with fellow commissioners. You guys, I know you guys were there at the meeting the other night, and if there's any discussion from the floor, I'm glad to take that.
Okay.
Any
Any further discussion from the commissioners?
Yeah, I just think we need to see the letter.
Yeah. So
before we vote on it.
okay, sure. Can I make a motion that, can the motion be so the, one of the reasons why we're trying to put out this letter right now is because they've told us that they need to hear feedback from us sooner than later. And there's a broad sort of platitudes that we had discussed at the meeting. And I don't know, Shirley, if you want to go into this a little bit more, but in talking with, Nick Bartolomeo from the National Park Service, they encourage us to weigh in sooner than later before the EA comes out. There was a broad list of some things we discussed the other night. We started dealing it, diving really into the details in terms of pumps and service roads and things like that before we realized that it would be impossible to really a strong consensus on that before this meeting and to have a formal resolution outlining each of the items we wanted to do. And so we resolved to send a basic letter outlining how important this issue was to us. I understand the need to see a letter before it gets sent out. I don't have a letter for us today. We had discussed getting it out before the next meeting. I can understand your concern, and I'm willing to talk about it tonight. And Shirley, if you want to say why you think we should get this letter out sooner than later, I'm happy to talk about that too.
Yeah, so, there are two stages in the process during which we'll have an opportunity to weigh in. So one is now, while DC Water is preparing these environmental assessments, and weighing in during this time, it has been stressed to us by the Park Service and others that it is advantageous to weigh in at this stage because a great deal of work is going on now to formalize the proposal and potentially to actually favor one proposal or another. So
I totally get that.
Yeah.
You don't have to convince me.
Okay. So
On
the
the
issue
time.
is what
No,
should go.
no, it's just,
Yeah.
but here's my concern. My concern is that if we say, some platitude like, we love the park, don't hurt the park, okay? At all costs, protect the park. Okay, we all agree with that. But I don't want that to be misinterpreted by someone to mean that we think that the pipe should come out of the park, because if that's the alternative they choose, then we wind up with the road through the park, which I don't think is ultimately the right thing for the park.
No.
So you hear
I
what I'm
understand
saying?
what you're saying. So.
So you want to see more of the details. Is there a way we could say yes to a letter with it being circulated before it's submitted for review by the commissioners?
Can I ask you, without having the text of the letter written, I understand, what are the major bullet points in the letter? Can you
So
tell us?
perhaps it'd be better we can decide on bullet points that would be addressed within the letter. It can be written and signed off on, but if we can vote on a letter that would contain specific bullet points tonight, it might be helpful. But do you want to go through the bullet point?
Yeah, well, I can certainly offer some suggestions for what I would like to see as part of this letter and what I think has come out of our discussions. And to Commissioner Ray's point, we want to make sure that it touches on key points that are sufficient to communicate the breadth of our concerns about this. So one is absolutely maintaining the integrity and environmental soundness of the park itself. So we're concerned about damage to the park, to its ecosystem, to its trees. It's a very, very important part of our community. But in addition, we have concerns about disruption to the community. And so that includes things like a detrimental impact on quality of life, on property values, and principles like that that we want to make sure we're very clear are very important to us and the residents of ANC 3F.
Are you advocating that we come down on one side of the?
No. No. No.
Because due diligence hasn't been done for looking at pumping stations, which we are trying to get a tour of some appropriate pumping stations, the right size, the right format.
We hope to work in the subcommittee to come up with a list of specific items that we can, that is not a project that we felt could be accomplished in the span of a week, and probably not in the span of this next month. But hopefully, we look to have a comprehensive document that everyone, can sign off on, examine, and go into detail on the projects. As I understood it, this letter would merely underline the importance of this project to our community, the urge, as Commissioner Adelstein said, to maintaining the environmental soundness of the park and minimizing the disruption to the community.
It's basically to go on record that we're
This is
going
important.
this is a first step, and we're going to come back to them with more definite, specific details to the park.
Can we then have the motion say that we're going to approve the letter pending final approval of the final text by all the commissioners present?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I guess.
Yes.
The majority.
Majority of
All right.
the commissioners.
We can call it a supermajority. I mean,
I think the committee, Commissioner Ray, was concerned that it would take longer to voice some type of opinion on how important Soapstone Park is to our community. So a general letter wanted to be sent to like the Park Service and DC Water, the city, the mayor, etc., and then saying that we're going to back that up with more specific researched information, because it really was stated by Nick Patilmato that, which was kind of interesting, that he thought anything on the record would help versus kind of waiting to the general comments to the what was it coming out, the assessment that's coming out from the park, because they're going to look at that as they do their assessment. That's why it was important.
he said sooner rather than later a few times. And I think the other thing, the impetus behind it was that I don't think the ANC, I know we've been involved in meetings, we've had discussions with DC Water, and we've hosted meetings with the community. As a full ANC, we haven't officially expressed anything regarding the project, be it details or just outside of, we haven't formally expressed its importance to us, and that was why, I mean.
I think we sent a couple of letters.
Okay,
over the last couple of years.
okay, I was not told of those when we brought this up. I should have checked with you and found out if we had sent some of those letters out.
Okay, we also co-sponsored the whole presentation about the whole thing. And stuff.
Right, but we've not weighed in since the proposal for the rerouting option was presented at the community meeting. And I think part of the idea is, yes, to stress that obviously we're paying attention, we care about this, we intend to weigh in during public comment, but also to make it clear that there are, particular areas of concern that we are keeping an eye on. So not, for instance, not just the condition of the park itself, which is very important, but also the quality of life issues that I mentioned. I know this is, this is something we're going to get into a lot more detail on during public comment, but there is tremendous anxiety within the community. Some of the residents are here tonight. And so I think it's important that we find some way to make it clear that we're paying attention to these particular sort of values and areas of concern around the proposals as early as we possibly can.
Okay. Okay, so is there, from the audience?
Oh, I just wanted to say bravo to Shirley
Bravo. Yeah, the thing of this, are there just the two choices? I mean, why do we just have two choices of how to handle the sewer and the park and everything? Who's decided on like two choices?
Okay.
Because neither one of them is very good.
There's a proposal and an alternative.
Yeah, so why can't we have a third alternative? Why are we stuck with just, because they're bad, both of them are bad. Does anybody know that?
I don't.
I don't.
We can ask that question, and we can include it in, you know, a.
Well, I'm on the committee, I just couldn't come
I know.
because of this thing I had to do. So that's a question for the committee.
And it's a good question for us to have.
Good.
Yeah,
And
and actually, I think we've asked some of those questions, and David's going to tell us, we
That is
have
true.
asked many questions as to why they have proposed what they have. DC Water, they have a consultant that is working in-house with them and has come up with the first proposal, and then the second proposal, and now the third proposal. But the third proposal was done because the Park Service said, what can you do to take the pipes out of the park?
Yeah.
So that's why we have this third proposal.
Right. No, I know there are all these different hands in the pot.
I don't recall if this AMC's ever passed a resolution on the merits of any of these things. There's been a lot of give and take, including individual commissioners, but mainly about you wanted more information. Frankly, one of your commissioners had to get a freedom of information request in order to find out basic information. And I have filed a freedom of information request related to these pump stations and the things that go with it. I'm still waiting for an answer. Maybe I'll get it. The latest things, maybe I'll get on the 17th. Anything I get, I'll pass on to you. So that's number one. Number two, you don't really have two proposals. What you had at this community meeting was a heads up by DC Water, to their credit, of an alternative proposal that they were presenting to the Park Service to consider putting into a draft EA. Whether that will be there exactly, or a different version, or a third version, or a fourth, we don't really know. So that's all something to do. But now switching to your letter, whenever you do it, whether it's something you draft now, or wait a month, or whenever, you had some discussion earlier about this E. coli. Right? Just that I didn't want to talk about it in that context. But in context of your letter, I definitely want to talk about it. You have a fact that anybody who hikes through there smells the sewage stench, which we understand comes out of the manholes, and has, as far as we know, has nothing to do with leaks from the pipes. We don't know that. On the other hand, we're told, that is to say, there's a document by the DC government to the Congress and EPA at the beginning of this year saying that the creek is impaired because of too much E. coli in it. And the place they measure it is right near the head of trail, right near Connecticut Avenue, right near where the new building is going up. And frankly, in the privacy of this room, right, and this TV monitor, it sure seems to be taking a long time for anybody in our city government to figure out why is there so much E. coli there, right? And you can do journalism on it, and I know one of my friends is going to work on that as an article. The ANC can dig into it. The DC Water says they're looking into it, Department of. But it seems to me that you as our representatives, and I'm saying this as one of your constituents, you ought to be demanding of our city government, figure it out. Does it have anything to do with these pipes? If so, let's find out. Is it something else? If so, what else is it? And let's get the context. DC Water's responsibility is to maintain their assets, as they call it, their pipes and their manholes. Good. That's important. The park's responsibility is to maintain the integrity of the park. Good. That's important. Department of Energy and Environment, you'd like to think their responsibility is the environmental integrity of the surface waters of Soapstone Creek. And I'm sure it is, except that sometimes it seems it's more filling out the forms that EPA requires on a timely basis with all the formulas and all the algorithms and all the tables and whatnot, which they're doing. So it seems to me you as lay people ought to be asking of our government, why is there so much E. coli, and is there other pollution coming in to the creek? And what's it got to do, if anything, with the sewers? And when are you going to do it? Now let me mention to you, as I read the document that was filed with Congress, the Department of Energy and Environment doesn't plan to do anything about it really until 2022. That's a long time from now. Probably not that long, but it's a long time. It's better than some waters. I'm told some waters of the district are not going to get around to until 2050 something. But this seems to me the kind of thing that you can figure out a way to raise early on without knowing what the answer is. Or committing yourself for or against something that you or I, would prefer. And somebody's got to do it because nobody's done it so far. And it's only in January of this year that they finally put out that this report has to be filed every 2 years. And apparently the designation, the decision was made that all these streams were impaired with E. coli was made in 2014. But in January it was filed. And we discovered it. And you got the information. 300-page report, and one table, one line, and one table says Soapstone Creek is impaired with E. coli. So let's get all of these people. They all say they're working together, and I'm sure they are in a sense, but you know how government agencies are. And one of the good things about an ANC is you really don't care which part of the government does it, you just want to get it done.
Thank you. Another comment, please?
Fast comment. I have a special interest in E. coli, as I want to make the commissioners aware. We first learned about E. coli 0157 in hamburger meat. This is very, very serious stuff. This kills people. I don't know where he's coming from, but I know where I'm coming from. Find out about Escherichia coli. And I also watch it when the pH is measured in my pool because of the DC government. E. coli comes into swimming pools and kills people. And if you go to the CDC website, you will find E. coli as a very serious problem. All I want to let you know is someone has to look into E. coli before someone dies.
So it's a public health issue, it seems
Yes.
to me. Can't we just close the park and we make a stink? It is stink, but you make a stink saying we demand you close the Soapstone Valley for the health of our citizens until we get this solved. And, I don't understand why we allow it to keep going along and we'll get answers someday. And, people are down there with their dogs. I saw kids in the park, playing in the water. It's a danger.
E. coli is called an indicator bacteria. It's not considered dangerous to human beings at all. Not true.
They close
I may be wrong, but that's the official line from EPA. It's an indicator. However, one of the sources of E. coli is human waste.
Well, but that's why we're
sewage.
waiting for the results of this DNA test to determine the source of that E. coli, right?
That's possibly going to happen. They say they're making the test. It's possible the E. coli come from deer or from squirrels, but that's a strong suspicion. And you don't just look for E. coli. I mean, it's an indicator. You're thinking maybe there's human sewage getting in there. So there's other stuff besides E. coli, other bacteria, other chemical material. Put it this way, we want the whole picture. I'm not suggesting we close the park. Frankly, I think all those warning signs that we had up there a few weeks ago were extremely questionable. Certainly if they were based on that tiny leak 1,900 feet down the trail, it didn't make much sense.
Well, it was found at the head of the trail too, at the head of the stream.
I think that these are all issues
But the point is
that this subcommittee...
the standing committee can look into,
The standing committee,
and
excuse me, not
that you
subcommittee.
need help from all of the experts we have in the neighborhood and outside, But we also need action and report by the government, and I'm sure what happened with this committee now that it exists, that it'll invite the people from the government agency to come and explain what the heck is going on here.
Okay, thank you. In the meantime, we're still just finishing the discussion on the motion to send a letter, the final text to be approved by a majority of commissioners. Do I hear a vote? Oh, there was a second. I think there was a second. Are we ready for a vote?
Yes.
All in favor? 5-0. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a motion, a resolution.
And motion.
A motion.
To write a letter of support to the DC Department of Parks and Recreation Permit Department for the Friends of Forest Hills Playground Annual Halloween Party on Sunday, October 25th from 9 to 1 p.m.
Okay.
And this should be fun after our conversation in Coli.
Okay, so you're making a motion?
I am making a motion. We have done this on 2 other occasions.
Okay, we have a second.
Thank you. We've done this on 2 other occasions. We've done it for the Capital Memorial Church Fun Day, and we've done it for the Friends of Forest Hills Playground Picnic in the Park music series. The neighborhood has been very happy with both. I, as the commissioner, have asked, for the single-member commissioner, have asked the Friends to deliver flyers to the adjacent, across the street neighbors and the 3 surrounding apartment buildings. That they will take care of the trash and noise level, but it's in the middle, kind of in the morning, so I don't think it's an issue here. It's not a night or an evening parade, and everybody loves to dress up for Halloween. So I truly support this. What they have gotten a permit number. We have to put in a letter, it's basically an email to Betty Hessler at the Permits Department of DPR, and we say that we support it, and then they are issued approval once it goes through the park service management. Do you have any questions?
Any questions or discussion? Anyone? Take a vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the miscellaneous portion of our agenda. We have a financial update here. Our treasurer is not present. I'm assuming that there's nobody here who's been given the information for the financial update. Okay, let's wait till next month for that. Technology committee update, is there anything?
I can give a brief update. So we've moved out of the design stage of the website. We requested 4 different bids for the development, and we're about ready to move into development. We're looking to have a site ready for commissioners to cruise in 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. Do we pick the room that we all liked?
The design?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Are they doing a logo also?
No.
No. So that would have to be a separate.
Okay, thank you. And now approval of the provisional minutes from the July 2015 and August 2015 meetings.
A motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved from the July and August meetings.
And in your packet.
Who made the motion?
I made the motion.
Okay, thank you.
And Commissioner Ray seconded. Okay, that's it for the agenda. We're going to adjourn at 10:11 p.m. Thank you all very much.
You have to make a wait.
Oh, really?
Yes.
5 minutes from now.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I say.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Now, yeah.
At 10:12.
10:07.
10:07. Your computer's fast.
Your watch is slow.
Oh, my cell phones are.
Hello, young lady. I'd like to see the, is the podcast over?
I'm sure it is.
Because I'm about to